Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears and their lethal offense that's ready to go to the Super Bowl. Clink, 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 clink. We're going to be talking about the Cubs and the White Sox not helping them out and a little more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season's not going on right now, but it will be starting up soon enough, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you feeling about the Chicago Bears now?
Well, I don't have a giant pitcher of Kool-Aid. I didn't think you were going to break out the pitcher until week 3 of the preseason, but boy, here we are. No, but seriously, I enjoyed what we watched in the brief, few drives of the opening starters on offense. And I think there were a few other guys throughout the game that got some playing time where you say, okay, you saw a few good things. I am quite annoyed how all of a sudden people are like, oh, yards after the catch. It's like you see so many other quarterbacks throwing screen passes, executing them fine, and making something out of it. And then all of a sudden when Justin Fields does it, oh, well, blah, 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 you shouldn't be looking at his stats and yards. I just find that very obnoxious.
I didn't think I had to break out the voice this early. The yards.
Did the voice go underwater?
Justin Fields running back.
Wow, you went all out with the voice, but I can't blame you. I would have done the same thing.
Packers fans are just so mad that they have nothing else going on in their lives and they don't have a real quarterback anymore. So they just are saying random things. And
well,
go ahead.
Especially in preseason, man. Like it's preseason.
Yeah, I was messing around about the ready for the Super Bowl, blah blah blah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I recognize this is preseason. It does not matter. I mean, look at some of the stats. I mean, Trey Lance threw for 111 yards and a touchdown and had like over 100 quarterback rating, and Baker Mayfield had over 100 quarterback rating and looked good. And it's preseason. You're playing against vanilla defenses. They're not blitzing. They're not putting exotic looks out there. They're really just playing super vanilla defense. And, you're just going out there and just trying to get the feel and cadence of the rhythm playing another team. It's not a real thing. It was nice to see Justin go out there, and what I was more impressed with was the fact that he didn't get touched. The offensive line looked good in front of him. That was more impressive to me than the the numbers. But
well, right. You have to go watch what happened because it's easy to just take a quick glance and be like, oh, screen pass, whatever, not impressive. But on the second touchdown, the blitz was coming and the pressure was coming. And the fact that he recognized that and dumped it off and it turned into a touchdown, either way, that's what you want. You don't want him standing there confused, panicking, throwing a pick or getting a sack. He had the blitz, the pressure was coming, and he was able to dump it off to one of his guys who was open, and you turned it into something huge. I mean, those are the little things that you like to see.
And here's the thing is on the intermediate to long passes last year, he was pretty good. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was the short passes that he was bad with, and the
Yep.
Bears have been historically a terrible screen team. So
Yes.
the fact that they had two, a short dump off and a screen that went for touchdowns, like that's to me is going, all right, this offense is evolving. We're
Right.
able
I
to
mean, yes.
That's been like a main staple for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you watched, it's not like Patrick Mahomes is just winging it down the field left and right. Is He has playmakers, and sure, he's got a Hall of Fame level tight end that's his security blanket, but it's he's dumping it off to guys, and he's giving them room to run, and you're seeing good things from it.
This
It's
is
not,
more about just Justin Fields. It's about the offense as a whole and how it executes. And if you're able to execute screens, then you can score a lot of points.
yeah. Um, so overall, I was happy with the Bears. There was a few things here and there, but the offensive line, we didn't have the full unit. Nate Davis is still out, and I don't know what the issue is, but I don't really think he's practiced much at all.
No, he hasn't.
I think maybe once, if that.
Maybe if even, it seems like every day you're getting the update from Hallis Hall that Nate Davis is not dressed. He's on the sideline, but not dressed.
Yeah, but so you had the rest of the starters there. Um, so you had Braxton Jones on the left tackle. Uh, you had um, uh,
Got our first look at Darnell Wright out there.
Darnell Wright on the right side, Tevin Jenkins at the left guard, um, Whitey Coathair at center, and you had Jatire Carter played every single snap at the right guard, and
Mm-hmm.
wound up with a really good PFF grade. He had a 94, played really well, and which is good because here's the thing: we upgraded from last year. We upgraded at left tackle based on just the fact that our rookie left tackle worked on the things that he needed to improve on in the offseason, and worked with a Hall of Fame level former offensive lineman to get better. You improved. I would say you improved at left guard because Tevin Jenkins at this point in his career is better than Cody Whitehair.
Yes.
Not not a knock on Cody. He's an average guy. Tevin Jenkins, I think, is pretty darn good. You upgraded at center. And I kind of got in an argument with somebody on Twitter about this because they said the Bears didn't address the offensive center position. And I'm like, they did, just not with a draft pick or free agency, but you moved Whitey Coathair over to center, which is an infinite improvement because he's a former Pro Bowl level center. And, sure, he's not a Pro Bowl level anymore, but if you look at the top 10 Pro Football Focus rated centers from last year, 8 of the 10 of them are over 30 years old or 30 or older.
Mm-hmm.
So centers age well. So I think that's a good move to move him over there.
Is he a professional bowler?
Um, and plus Lucas Patrick is, I was going to say he's healthy, but he got injured. And Doug Kramer returned from injury. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say all three are better than Sam Mustipher at center, who started almost all your games at center last year. So you improved at center just by moving a player over and getting two guys healthy again.
Yeah. Well, I don't tell you know who that.
Um, you We'll see what happens with Nate Davis, but the we haven't improved at right guard because we had Jenkins over there, and Nate Davis. I don't know what we're going to get at this point, but Jatire Carter stepping up, if nothing else, provides good depth.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we absolutely improved at right tackle with Darnell Wright, who looking very nimble out there for a man his size.
Well, didn't he do the wide receiver workout instead?
He did. He did the wide receiver workout. So he was looking nimble out there.
Yeah, he was.
So I was impressed by the offensive line. And I'm not saying they're going to be an elite unit or anything, but last year they were abysmal. So as long as they're serviceable, that's all I really care about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if they're healthy, I think they could be solid. It's just I always worry about Tevin Jenkins and his injury history. I always do. I know how good he is. We saw last year when he did play what a difference it made, but he didn't play all that much because there was a lot of injury issues with him, really going back to when he was drafted a few years ago. But seeing Darnell Wright as nimble, like nimble is the best way to put it. Seeing him play the way he did, that's got to give you some hope.
Oh, absolutely. It's he seems like a good kid. Teammates seem to like him, and he's out there playing hard and look good. So I'm happy with it so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean the starting offense is just out there like what 2 drives, and
But they made the most of it.
they made the most of it and made it look easy. And in some ways, you're like, maybe I wish wouldn't have been so easy to get a little more work in there.
I know. I kind of thought the same thing because Justin Fields, yeah, he went 3 for 3 for over 100 yards, but it was just those 3 passes. So I was kind of hoping I'd see one more drive, but obviously we didn't see it. I think really one of the other big takeaways from what we saw in the first 2 drives is you see the acceleration that DJ Moore has. And like that's number one wide receiver stuff. He might not be the Calvin Johnson, outsize you, make circus catches type, but if he's the type of guy who's going to create separation and accelerate then that's going to get you number one wide receiver production.
Yeah, it's we've added a legitimate number one wide receiver, and I think just that one play alone is making people that were doubters start questioning themselves, and maybe they're not totally on board that that this is legitimate train, but they're at least stopping to go, maybe I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because you extrapolate this, and Justin Fields is throwing for like 8,000 yards and 150 touchdowns. So, just saying,
Yeah.
we haven't had a 4,000-yard passer, and we're gonna have an 8,000-yard passer.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. PJ Walker came in, played a big chunk of the middle of the game, and did not look very good. And I realized that a lot of non-Bears fans that hate Justin Fields can't tell the difference between PJ Walker and Justin Fields, because they're attributing Walker's
Interception
interceptions.
to Justin Fields. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that multiple times already. But who was interesting, and I recognize that he is not going to be QB2, is Tyson Bagent.
I knew that's where you were going.
I know that we're Bears fans and we love a good third string quarterback. But he really did look good.
Tyson Bagent's going to be Brock Purdy 2.0.
I can't wait for my Tyson Bagent jersey to come in.
Hey, that throw he made on 4th down was pretty impressive.
I mean, he's got a good pedigree from college. I mean, it's impeccable. And when the Bears brought him in as an undrafted rookie, I was just like, whatever. I would like to see them turn him loose more and see what you have. Because here's the thing: is I mean, unless they're really trying to hide him so they can put him on the practice squad, because I don't think they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks.
So you think they're just going to carry Justin Fields and PJ Walker?
Probably.
Nathan Peterman probably destined for the practice squad.
I think Nathan Peterman might be destined for the, the van out the door.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you keep him? You have a veteran backup. Why wouldn't you want? You know who Nathan Peterman is, and I'm not shitting on him. It's just you know who he is.
Right.
He's not gonna. You've seen what his ceiling is. So why wouldn't you bring in a rookie to be the guy that you try to groom and see what you've got? Because
No, I totally agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, Tyson Bagent, we have no idea what he's capable of in the NFL. I mean, maybe he sucks. Maybe it's he never amounts to anything. That's quite possible. He's an undrafted rookie. But I would rather learn than go, all right, well, let's keep Nathan Peterman because we know who he is and it's the ceiling's not very high.
4 touchdowns to 13 interceptions on 712 passing yards, completion percentage of 53%, in 13 career games, a QB rating of 39.4. Yeah, he's just there to be there right now, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a veteran presence. And I just don't think you need that. I would rather go with the young guy and just see what you have. And it's hard to be worse than a 39 career quarterback rating.
Right. I'm totally with you. I am totally with you. And I mean, hopefully, truly, we don't really have to worry about who's behind Justin Fields because Justin Fields is playing and playing well. But, like you said, we're Bears fans. We naturally think about this sort of thing. And, even if your plan is never to have your backup quarterbacks play, it's always important to have as good of a QB room as possible under your number one.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: other teams have done this. They've groomed a backup quarterback, and there's been hype around him, and they've traded him away for a draft pick.
The Patriots did it with Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah.
I mean, if you have a quarterback on your roster that you don't need, I mean, Sam Bradford got traded for a first round pick. It's when if you create a quarterback that looks good when you put him in, it doesn't have to be, you don't need him to be good for a career. You just need him to be good long enough. If he's not your long-term answer and you view him as disposable, is just good enough to create the illusion that he's good, whether he's good or not, and get that draft pick. You didn't spend a draft pick on him, so any draft pick you get is free money. But so I would at least try to develop the guy.
Yeah, or at the very least, Ding Dong George can draw stick figures of Tyson throwing the ball and say, see, he's really good. Here's a picture to prove it.
I love on the broadcast when they brought him out and they said something about symbiotic, and he's like, what does that mean?
I was, the whole time I saw that, I was just thinking of the purple crayon. That's all I could think of.
Ding Dong George and the purple crayon.
Yep.
Yeah, so offense, it did what it was supposed to do. I do like the running backs. It'll be nice to see when Nate Davis goes in there, knowing that even if Jenkins or Davis goes down, that Ja'Tyre Carter looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me feel confident the way Ryan Poles attacked the offensive line is he traded back and got multiple picks, and he got more bites at the apple. And we'll see what Doug Kramer looks like, but when he got multiple picks and tried to get more bites at the apple, a lot of those bites turned out to be pretty good. One of the guys, I forgot who it was, one of the guys they drafted, the Bears put him on the practice squad and he got taken by another team and signed to their 53 man. Braxton Jones is their starting left tackle. Doug Kramer, sorry, is, in competition to be the backup center, and Jatire Carter is looking good, filling in as a starting guard.
Mm-hmm.
So, it makes me happy that he was able to dig offensive linemen out like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, defense, up and down on the defense. There was some good things. There was some bad things.
Mm-hmm. I liked what I saw from Tyreek Stevenson for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, and the first play of the game, he had a blown coverage. We're good. Those things are going to happen as a rookie,
I
but
was gonna say you gotta adjust with the growing pains when you look here.
yeah, you're going to have growing pains, but the depth that they have at cornerback, they had so many guys playing well. Kyler Gordon is out there hitting guys like it's the postseason.
He is embracing the hits principle. I said that on Twitter.
Literally, he is just laying dudes out.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Stevenson looks good. And the fifth round draft pick cornerback is competing with Tyreek Stevenson for the spot. They had Jalen Jones, who I liked from last year, coming out and being a special teams ace. He had 3 special teams tackles in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Those after the first drive by the Titans, the Bears covered well on special teams.
yeah. So you saw some good things. The run defense is still a little suspect.
Yeah.
Up the center, up the middle, meh. But it was on those outside ones, those edges are not keeping contain. Your linebackers aren't filling those gaps. And I know that your starting linebackers aren't all out there.
Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds didn't play. TJ Edwards only played a little bit.
Yeah. But you uh you filled it in a little better. Travis Gibson was 5th on the rotation for edge rusher and came out there playing like he was fighting for his job.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I don't know if he'll keep that up, but that was a guy with a fire lit under his ass.
Yeah, he was noticeable. And that's a guy we kind of need, even if he's lower on the depth chart than he was, you kind of need some production from that guy.
I think the Bears, I mean, honestly, best, like, if the Bears are going to be a legitimately good team this year, it's not going to just be Yannick Ngakoue that's rushing the passer. You're going to need
Mm-hmm.
DeMarcus Walker on the other side putting pressure on. You're going to need Dominique Robinson. You're going to need Travis Gibson. You're going to need 4 guys that can, competently rush the passer. May not put up the
Absolutely.
gaudy numbers, but that's how the most successful teams. Look at the Eagles. They just sent waves of dudes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they were so successful.
Yeah. Most
So
sacks in the league last year.
by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's and I'm not saying the Bears need to lead the league in sacks, but I'm saying is you can't have one dude that carries the whole load. You're gonna need other guys to step up.
You can't have Jaquan Brisker, your safety, leading your team in sacks.
You can't. Zach Pickens, he had some nice moves in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I watched every single snap that Jervon Dexter made, and other than getting injured, and we don't know the extent of that. Hopefully, it's minor, but he had a bunch of positive plays. And he's a
Yeah, when he
guy.
got, I was worried when he got up, but he seemed to go off under his own power. It looked like from what I saw. So, like you said, hopefully it's not too serious because we do need that.
Yeah, I mean, watching him every single snap, there was some shining moments in there. You saw him do some good things and really command a double team. And when he didn't, he was collapsing the pocket. I'm excited. I still think he's learning that position because it's a completely different position than he was asked to play in Florida, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful on him. But yeah, the run defense is going to have to get a little better. And I recognize that, half of your starting defensive line didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
And, most of your linebacking core didn't play much. So I get it. But, also you weren't playing against their starting running back either.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, special teams, um, they got better after the first drive. I do want to talk about Velus Jones,
Yeah, I do too.
and I am probably going to say something different than you and most everybody else.
Okay.
Is we all know he's not a good punt returner.
No.
So why are we trying to make him a punt returner?
Where else does he fit at this point?
I mean, I think right now he's your fourth best wide receiver as a pass catching option.
Would you put him over Travis Scott right now? I know he's a rookie, but
that guy's got a case of the dropsies right now.
yeah, he does. He does. And it was noticeable.
As a wide receiver, Velus Jones is your fourth best wide receiver, and he's got a lot of speed. I think him as a kick returner is a very viable option, but you don't have to have the same guy return kicks and return punts. I mean, you've got, who's to say that you don't have Dante Pettis make the roster as your sixth guy and him go and be your punt returner. You went out and got Travis Homer. He's returned punts. Simba Webster returned punts. He's still on the roster. Scott, you've tried him as a punt returner. Maybe that's part of his niche. I don't know. I agree. Velus Jones has been terrible on punts.
Can't return punts. Just you can't do it.
Yeah, but if that's not something you're good at, make him be, your depth wide receiver and your kick returner. He's a very good kick returner, and I think they have high expectations of him as a kick returner. I'm just not ready to kick him to the curb as a third-round pick in his second year because he can't return punts. There's a lot of guys that can't return punts. Punt return is not easy. I just don't want to shit all over him just because he can't return punts when there's other guys that can. Let him just return kicks and be a wide receiver. The odds are that you're not gonna re-sign Claypool and Mooney at the end of the year. So if he keeps playing well, you're gonna want him as your third best option next year, assuming you don't draft somebody. So I don't believe in getting rid of talent just because they have one flaw.
I mean, I get that. That's fair. I don't, how do I say this? I want to see how the other wide receivers perform in this preseason, because if you're going to keep Velus Jones, he better darn be a good wide receiver for you, because like you said, I don't want him returning punts. Could he return kicks? Sure. But I need to see more from him. And I get it. His last few games last year, he did improve a lot, but I just don't want to have him married to the job yet of being on the roster, kind of until I see what other guys show. He hasn't earned my trust yet.
That's fair. But I just don't want to judge him solely based on as a punt returner, because there's other guys that are just throw them out there as punt returners. I want him focusing on as a kick returner and a wide receiver. Is like you said, is the last couple games last season you saw positive. You've seen good things I've heard good things from training camp. I didn't go. Um, I want to see him compete, but right now, uh, he's um, I think he's wide receiver 4.
And maybe he will be. I mean, this is one of the biggest questions I had coming into this preseason, this camp, this preseason, whatever, is how are you going to round out those final few spots? And you're right, Travis Scott, he was drafted this year, but yeah, he had some dropsies in this. He makes the catch, makes a move, gets some yards, and then just fumbles it away. And that's, going to have to be something that's going to have to get cleaned up a bit. I'm sure, that him being in his first quote professional game, even though it doesn't mean anything, I'm obviously sure that there's a lot of things riding high in his mind and how he wants to perform, but you know, he's got to prove that he's roster worthy as well. That goes for him too. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out.
Right? It will be. It will be. I mean, there's 3 wide receivers that are locks. After that is
Up for grabs.
Yeah. I mean, you have Equanimous St. Brown. He hasn't earned anything. There's Pettis and there's Fountain and Ford and Webster and Reed and Scott and Velus Jones. They're all competing for those last 3 spots because they're probably keeping 6 wide receivers. They're competing for 3 spots. And if Velus Jones looks good in the opportunities he has as a wide receiver and he can return kicks, that bodes well, even if he's not a punt guy.
Yeah, I mean, you need him to fully show his value with the attributes he has. And, you could be fast and not be a good punt returner. I get it, but you better be a good receiver that can, obviously, again, he's not going to be going up and making leaping catches and beating guys one-on-one in terms of size. But if you can beat guys one-on-one in terms of speed and you can make things happen, then there is value. But you got to be fundamentally sound too. And obviously, the big issue last year, really, both as a receiver and as a returner, it was the fundamentals, hanging on to the ball and, where he was running, how he was running. There was a lot of work to be done last year. And I think that there were plenty of people that were skeptical, but also there were people that thought, hey, he might be older, quote unquote, but you like the attributes of this guy. I don't think the age thing should have been as big of a deal as it was made to be, but at the end of the day, you got to be fundamentally sound. And that's going to stand out more than anything in camp for a lot of these guys. It's not how many yards you get, not how many touchdowns you get, but it's how fundamentally sound are you? I mean, isn't that fair to say? Because, you're going to forget about the scorebook of a preseason game right away, but you're going to remember if somebody looks good or does not. Like, oh, made the catch, made everything he was supposed to do, got separation, or if he fumbled, then yeah, you're going to remember that. That's going to stick out.
That's fair. But it's weird that Velus Jones gets held to a different standard than Tyler Scott is being held to. Nobody's talking about the Tyler Scott dropsies. Why? Why do the Bears have Velus Jones ahead in their depth chart as a punt returner over Tyler Scott? he was 133rd overall pick. That's a fairly high draft pick. Like, you should be, you shouldn't be dropping balls. Like, so I don't understand why that Velus Jones gets held to a higher standard.
Well, because he's a sophomore, we saw a lot of what happened last year where Scott is a rookie and we've seen good things in camp. Obviously, there were problems in the preseason game, but I think it's a matter of thinking back to what happened last year with Velus Jones through most of the year. But, really what I'm going to try to do is just let this year's preseason do the talking.
Yeah. I mean, the depth chart, it's a bogus depth chart that they had. But they have DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney as their first string wide receivers, and second string Velus Jones, Tyler Scott, and Equanimous St. Brown. So if the season were to start right now, that's probably Pettis not making this team. Dory's Fountain's not making this team. Isaiah Ford's not making this team. Joe Reed not making this team. Simba Webster not making this team. But that means that Velus Jones, Equanimous St. Brown, Tyler Scott, one of them's got to return punts.
Yeah, you don't want it to be Equanimous St. Brown. If you have Equanimous St. Brown on your roster, that is strictly for blocking and size. You're not returning punts and not throwing the ball downfield, being a downfield target, because we saw that last year. And there were a lot of moments where with Equanimous St. Brown, you're like, okay, on this touchdown, you saw him be a crucial blocker downfield. That's good. Next play, you throw to him downfield, and he either can't catch it or he has a bad route and it ends up getting picked off.
Yeah. So, the way I look at it is that Dante Pettis is probably the best punt returner you have.
Probably.
But is he valuable enough if you have to put him in there as a wide receiver to justify it?
I mean, I'm not saying he was great, but I thought that you saw enough from him last year where at least warranted him another look this year. I mean, am I overstating that? Because I feel like he was part of the offense, and I get it. He wasn't your number one wide receiver by any means. He wasn't a guy making highlight reels every night, but I felt like he did enough to at least warrant a second look.
Here's your on their roster, your punt return depth. Velus Jones, Dante Pettis second string, DJ Moore third.
No.
Fourth is Eddie Jackson. Fifth is Tyler Scott.
I mean, of all those guys, if I just had to choose based on who I believe could do the job best, not the actual depth of the roster, I'd go Dante Pettis.
And your kick return depth is Velus Jones, Khalil Herbert, Treston Ebner, Tyler Scott. So ask yourself, why isn't Tyler Scott higher on these charts? He's got to earn that spot too. He's got to earn that spot on the roster too. Why are we just assuming that we're going to give him a spot on this roster?
Well, we did just draft him.
But if he's not earning it, if he's not playing wide receiver as well, and he's not winning the kick return, punt return spot, maybe Dante Pettis takes the roster spot over him and you put him on the practice squad.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's impossible because, I mean, again, I think we saw enough from Dante Pettis to give him a second look. And I feel like, is Dante Pettis going to be an outstanding punt returner? No, but I at least would have some comfort thinking that Dante Pettis would be able to do the job without making mistakes.
And honestly, are we guaranteeing Equanimous St. Brown a roster spot?
No, and I don't want to say that he's guaranteed a spot. They're not married to Equanimeous St. Brown. The extension they gave him was just a little over $1 million. So if you cut him, you wouldn't be losing anything. I feel like that the chances are higher than not, even though not 100%, that it's going to be him making the roster just because I think they like the attributes that he brings as a 6 wide receiver.
I mean, that's fair. I'm just saying is I think they have 3 guaranteed spots.
I
And the
agree.
other 3 are, you know, it really is an open competition.
It is. It absolutely is. And like I said, this is one of my biggest questions going into the season is how they're going to fill out those last few spots. And I think the other question too is when you look at that, it leads into the one that we were just talking about too, is how you're going to put together the special teams unit. Because you see guys that have attributes where you could just be like, okay, look, Velus Jones can't return punts, but he could maybe return the kickoff. You could see why, okay, that makes sense. If you were to keep Dante Pettis, you would think, okay, there's a lot of logic of putting him at punt return because you look at some of the other guys at that depth. I don't want DJ Moore returning anything on special teams. I don't want my number one wide receiver out there doing that.
I don't want Eddie Jackson out there either.
Hell no.
Even though he's, capable, I don't want him out there.
No, you certainly as hell don't want that. And do I even want to entertain the idea of Equanimeous St. Brown returning anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, don't want that. But I mean, and I will say that the one that Velus Jones muffed on the punt, that was just a bad decision, not bad hands, because
right.
I think he would have totally caught it. Is that guy was on him, and I need to go and look at the rule. Aren't you supposed to give them space to make the catch? That dude hit him as the second he touched the ball.
Right, but he didn't call for a fair catch, right?
But still, I think you have to give them space to make the catch. I don't think you can hit them as they're catching the ball.
I feel like that's kind of arbitrary the way they actually referee it on the field.
I don't. In the air, they would have called that. I don't know if when the ball bounces, if that changes the rule. In the air, even if they don't call a fair catch, you have to give them the opportunity to catch the ball.
Right.
And he really got walloped as soon as he touched that ball. That was just a bad decision. You can't feel that off the high bounce.
Right. If you played it back, it would have bounced more into your lap and you would have been able to probably take a knee with it.
Is you take the low bounce or you just let it roll.
Right.
And that was just a bad decision.
Because he was trying to reach up to get it as the guy was coming right into him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's more of a, hey, don't do that in this situation rather than you're muffing punts.
Right.
One's an easier problem to solve. Yeah. But overall, I was happy with the Bears. I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pain on the defense. A lot of new players, and you're working in a edge that you just signed a week ago. And you had a lot of guys that didn't suit up. Brisker didn't suit up. Claypool didn't suit up. Blackwell didn't suit up. Edmonds didn't suit up. Lucas Patrick didn't suit up. Nate Davis, Mercedes Lewis, Dante Pettis, Yannick Ngakwe, DeMarcus Walker. None of them suited up. And nobody seems to be injured and in danger of not playing week 1, which is when we need them. But, it would be nice to have some guys out there unavailable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because I will say this about Dante Pettis is you know, even if you are a better punt returner than Velus Jones, if you're not available, you don't have a
You don't have a job.
you don't have a job. But who do they have next week? That's their preseason game.
The Colts.
The Colts next week.
Yep. They're in Indianapolis next week.
Okay, so
So
that's when they're doing the joint practices.
that's right. So it's kind of nice. So you have your home preseason game this week. Then you just go to Indianapolis next week. You got joint practice, then the game, and then you have one more home preseason game. So you're really not traveling anywhere.
Yeah, that's nice. Is they're really staying within, one state away.
Yep.
But it'll be nice to see the reports out of I like the joint practices. Not every team does those, but it's nice, I think, because you're you're not always trying to play nice like you are with your own team. And I get that, on a competitive team, your offense and your defense are going to try to go at each other. But at the end of the day, you are teammates. But when you go out there and you're scrimmaging against another team, you don't have that same camaraderie at all. Is, you know, uh, if the Anthony Richardson goes out there and you're trying to pick it off and you're trying to take him out on the return, you're going after guys. It's not like it's your own team where you're like, hey, we're trying to beat the offense, but we're not trying to hurt Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you get a little bit of that more competitive fire. And it's a difference when you're playing against another team where you're varying it up from the same offense that you practice against day in and day out.
Yep.
I'm curious if Justin Fields will play week 2 in preseason.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We might get more looks at Nathan Peterman.
Oh, the P-man.
Peterman.
Around the league is Trey Lance threw for 112 yards and a touchdown, 111 quarterback rating, which is better than what Jordan Love put up.
You're gonna be that guy.
Oh yeah, the numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Well,
Oh, and then the next day, oh, the numbers are skewed. I can't stand NFL Twitter. I really can't. Or sorry, NFL X.
NFL X. I am really hoping that the Panthers are the team that played the the Jets over the weekend, because if they are, the Bears are going to get a top 5 pick.
That would be dream scenario. Would be we make the playoffs and we get like a top 5 pick again.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing, because then that that we're adding either a dynamic wide receiver or an edge rusher.
Or you trade just for another haul and you get a number of things.
Oh my God. What if the Panthers are just dreadful and the Bears get the number 1 pick again?
Oh.
And they just make another haul of a trade?
Ryan Poles will be like that scene where Homer is like so emotional over the giant tub of ice cream, he just face plants in it.
He's standing with the rest of the GMs, and he's got the wax in his mouth. He's like, ha, 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 don't quit your day job, whatever that is.
That's one of the top 5 Simpsons episodes of all time.
That Ryan Poles thinks he's the Pope of Chili Town.
Hey, look, everyone. It's the big baby. Oh, this porridge is too hot. Oh, wah, wah, wah.
The second half of that episode is weird. The first half though is just chef's kiss. Marge, where's my chili eating boots?
They say he carved it himself from a bigger spoon.
Marge, we're missing the chili cook-off. Less artsy, more fartsy. Or the best line, not the best. It is a great line from that is 8 spices. Some of these must be double. Oregano.
All right. It's only 3 alarm tops. I just want to be a big man in front of the kids. Dad, are you going to jail? We'll see, son. We'll see.
Oh man, why is that episode so good?
Oh, it was so greatly written. Because that was the voice of the Space Coyote. Was that wasn't that Johnny Cash?
Maybe.
I thought it was Johnny Cash.
Let's see what the internet has to say.
When he kicks the turtle and the giant pyramid goes up. This is because I kicked you, wasn't it? Hey, who likes short shorts? Oh, that episode is gold. I'm gonna have to watch that again.
The precious cargo. You mean the hot pants, sir?
The hot pants.
Why isn't? Let's see, season 8, episode 9. Let's do it this way. Season 8, episode 9. There's been 751 episodes of that show.
Isn't that nuts?
Episode. Johnny Cash was the voice of the coyote.
Yep.
Right.
That must have been towards the end of his life, right? I mean,
that episode was January 5th, 1997.
97.
Johnny Cash wiki. He died in 2003.
Okay, so not that much longer after.
He was only 71. Hard life. So
He's that young, really? Huh.
Yeah. I mean, the love of his life died, like what, 2 months before?
Yeah.
Yeah, she died mid-May and he died mid-September.
Yeah, that's really close.
Broken heart. What else do we want to talk about the Bears? Yeah, it was just nice to have football back. To be honest
Yeah,
with
it was.
No pressure. So it was nice once you saw Justin Fields throw 2 touchdowns, and then he took off the pads and he was on the sidelines, and then you were like, all right, now it doesn't matter what happens. It was nice for them to get the win, but who cares what happens? You stayed for the most part injury free. You're just going out there and giving some of the younger guys the opportunity to win a roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk White Sox or Cubs first?
Well, I think baseball kind of blends in together right now, doesn't it?
I mean, we've got to talk about White Sox culture.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Um, so the White Sox made a trade, and the player came out afterwards and said that culture is terrible, and pitchers are sleeping in the bullpen, and you have the story about Tim Anderson and
Yasmani
Yasmani
Grandal.
Grandal having a fight. And if you guys haven't heard this, apparently the last day of before the All-Star game, Yasmani Grandal came into the clubhouse, saw that he was not going to start that day on the lineup card. So he just announced, "All right, well, I'm going to start my vacation early." And Tim Anderson was sitting in, I don't know if it's the hot tub or the cold tub, and he just yelled, "I'll pay for your flight out." And Yasmani Grandal walks up to him and slaps him in the face. And the two of them start fighting. So I can't tell you if this is true, but there's what's the old saying? When there's smoke, there's fire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an awful lot of smoke coming out.
You know what? You know what stood out to me about this whole thing is, did you hear when after Kenyon Middleton made the comments about the culture issues and kind of people being on their own and no real leader? Did you hear how they talked to Lance Lynn? And he's like, "I was here a lot longer." He's not wrong.
Yeah. Lance Lynn was not happy here, um, and people made him out to be like he was the bad one, and Keenan Middleton, he's saying, "Hey, there was problems. The culture's bad." And when you see enough smoke, and then you go, "Well, look at how bad they're playing. That's all got to be tied together, right? They're not having fun. It's not fun to lose." Even when that's your job and you're still getting paid no matter if you win or lose, it's not fun to lose. And if there's already like a bad culture there, and who are you firing? Like these are not new issues. Pedro Grafal, he inherited these issues. You know, do you? And if you're Jerry, you're not firing yourself. You're not firing Kenny.
Jerry doesn't care.
Yeah, Jerry doesn't care.
He's made it very clear he does not care.
Yeah, he does not care. It does not matter. He's making money. That's all that matters. I mean, Jerry is really a half step above old man Wirtz.
Yeah, at least he didn't take the games off TV. And
I don't know,
yeah.
but if you listen to some White Sox fans, I think they would prefer that.
Well,
I mean, I feel terrible for White Sox fans. It's like this is such a tough spot because I don't know about you, but I would have a hard time being like, screw it, I'm gonna pick a new team. That's a tough thing to do.
it's incredibly tough. That's crossed my mind before in other situations, but I can't do it.
Yeah,
I just can't do it.
So you're stuck then. You're like, well, I guess I'm not going to support the team because they're not putting a good product on the field. They're not trying. And what do? Just not root for baseball? Just watch other games and have no vested interest? Like it's a tough spot they're in. Their team is a mess, and they're a rudderless ship. They have from ownership down. Ownership just cares about making money, and they're doing it, so they don't care. Is Kenny Williams is there doing God knows what? I don't know if he's the puppet master here, and what's his name? I can't even think of the GM's name. Why am I drawing a blank? Rick Hahn. Rick Hahn is the puppet, and he's the puppet master. But then it gets worse, is because Rick Hahn comes out there and just starts shitting on White Sox Twitter.
Cesspool, he called it.
Listen, I know that Twitter's a cesspool.
It is.
But those are your fans. Those are your fans. And they're right. They have a right to not be happy. Look at how poor of a job performance that Rick Hahn has had. And he's acting like, well, people don't know better. Well, clearly you don't know better, Rick. Show me your playoff wins. Like, what you came in with postseason aspirations this season. And where are you?
25 games below right now.
Yeah. You are so far behind the chance to make the playoffs. It's impossible. There's no way you can make the playoffs. And the fact that there's a team in your division that is historically bad is the only reason you're not in last place. So Rick Hahn really has no room to talk. If you don't like what they have to say, then you know what? Give them just something to not complain about.
Well, and I feel like this too, and they've said it on 670 The Score, so I'm going to echo what they said. It feels like when you listen to Rick Hahn, he has not been the same guy since they forced upon him Tony La Russa. And really, if you want my opinion, you can really pinpoint a lot of this to that day when they announced they were hiring Tony La Russa. And maybe this is an unpopular opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. But I still think that hire truly was a chain reaction of a lot of this.
I mean, that's possible. But if you're Rick Hahn, and I mean, if somebody is basically throwing me under the bus with a decision like that and handcuffing me from doing my job, I'm saying something. I'm not going to be the good soldier and just take it and grumble about it and then continue my path of not doing a good job. I'm saying something. If you're going to fire me, then fire me. I will go on and do something else. At least make it known to the rest of the teams that are hiring, hey, that was not my decision. I'm got decisions being made by an octogenarian that doesn't care about winning baseball.
Well, look at it this way, though. If you're Rick Hahn, despite having Tony La Russa forced on you, what do you have the luxury that most GMs don't have?
Oh, the job that never ends.
Exactly.
But if you hate your job and you're miserable and your fans hate you and you don't like your fans, like, what is that a fun job to go to?
Well, here's the way I see it. The fact that despite the fact that Tony La Russa was forced upon him by Jerry, we kind of said the same thing at the time. We don't like this hire. We think it's a really dumb hire. This has potential to backfire. But I think that there was this thought that, listen, this team is really talented with a lot of upside. And if they win in spite of the manager, then okay, we'd live with it. And he'd live with it too. Like in 2021, first year under Tony, they won the division. When you win 93 games and you have a division title, Rick Hahn, does he like having Tony La Russa as his manager? Probably not, especially with the Yermin Mercedes stuff. But he's probably thinking, you know what? We just won the division. We're in the postseason. If we have success going forward, we'll live with this shit. But then things got sour. So now here you are, well after Tony La Russa is gone. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, I hear what you're saying too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it would be really hard to sit there and accept that. And frankly, I thought Rick Hahn did a good job of being diplomatic during the press conference, even though you could clearly tell he wasn't happy. He was as diplomatic as possible with the Tony La Russa hire. But this past year, man, you're getting a lot of snark and just you don't like hearing it from Rick Hahn, and it makes a bad situation even worse when you hear it. So you have snarky Rick Hahn. You ask Jerry if he has any comments. He just says no. And you don't hear shit from Kenny, even though the GM of the Marlins, she said she made the deal with Jake Berger with Kenny Williams. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah. She said when they made the Jake Berger deal, he called Kenny Williams to get that done. So is it Rick Hahn is making some moves, Kenny Williams is making other? Is Kenny Williams more involved in the decision making than we're led on to believe? Like, is Rick Hahn truly just a puppet for this whole regime?
I
We
think he
don't
is.
know.
I think Kenny's. I mean, if you're running the team, what don't you want to deal with? Shit, like fans shitting all over you and everything you do and cursing your name. If you have somebody that you can put as the face of that, and they get shit on all the time, isn't that preferable? So if you're Rick Hahn, I mean, if you're Kenny Williams, you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna give myself a promotion and promote this other guy to the role that everyone's gonna be mad about, and let him be the face of it. And I'm really running everything, and then he gets shit on, and I get paid and to do what I want, and have a job that never ends, and I don't get flack. That's the way to go.
Oh, sure. I mean, and frankly, I think that Rick Hahn has a lot less power than I'm with you where I think Kenny Williams is making a lot more of the decisions than we think. And Rick Hahn is just the puppet. I mean, you barely hear from Kenny Williams. I think the last time I remember hearing from Kenny Williams address the media, there could have been other times there, but do you remember when he addressed the media after they lost out on Manny Machado? That was before the 2019 season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much dysfunction here, and right now nobody trusts Jerry to say, "Hey, we need to revamp this." The thought is it's either going to all be run back next year with this regime, or you're going to just rearrange some deck chairs. You're going to say, "Okay, we're going to be holding our guys accountable, and we're going to bring in a new GM, but Rick Hahn's still going to be there. He's just going to be given some other title." A la John Paxson.
I mean, how many titles are you gonna have? I think I wonder if the loyalty extends to Rick Hahn, or if it just extends to Kenny Williams.
Well, here's the thing, though. But here's the thing with that. You might not extend the loyalty to Rick Hahn like you would Kenny Williams. So that means if Kenny Williams is still around, who could be still getting the final shots here in the decision making, even if you did bring in a new GM?
Oh, it's still going to be Kenny Williams, but
so then there would be no difference.
You'll find a new puppet.
Right, exactly. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, the other thing too is if Jerry clearly shows that he doesn't care,
which he doesn't.
Which he doesn't. What motivation would one think for him to make massive changes when he clearly shows he has not been willing to do that? It's hard to imagine there being major changes right now. Maybe something happens that surprises us, but if you were a betting man, would you bet on major changes happening under Jerry Reinsdorf?
No.
Probably not.
They're gonna reset. They're gonna reset, and they're gonna sell it on, well, we're going younger, we're retooling, and give us another year and we'll be back competing. And they're gonna bring back Rick Hahn. Rick Hahn will still be here unless he quits. But yeah, I was just trying to look up. GMs don't make as much money as I thought they did. Like most
what's the
GMs,
average salary?
It's hard to find, but the 5th highest paid GM is making $1.5 million a year.
That's it.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but I thought they would be making more.
Oh, sure. You're just talking baseball, right?
Yeah, just baseball. So, I mean, Rick Hahn is probably making less than $1 million a year, and that's a lot of money, but is it enough money for him just to retire off of? I don't know. Doubt it. Probably needs to work still. Where are you going to find another job that pays you that much? So probably not quitting. I think they just run it back, and Dylan Cease's trade value is not that high. So I don't think they're going to trade him in the offseason. I think they'll wait and try to trade him at the trade deadline next year and rebuild his value.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to just pick up scraps and go out there with a cheap roster.
I don't know if you know, but me and my buddy were actually at the Sox Brewers game on Saturday night. I don't know if you saw me post about that at all.
I saw you posted you're at a game. I didn't see which one though.
Yeah, it was the Saturday game, the 3-2 loss. They had the 2-0 lead going into the seventh, and I'm like, okay, Sox, please help us out. And unfortunately, the Brewers came back and beat them. But you just walking around that park, you sensed a lot of apathy.
Yeah,
A lot of apathy.
I don't blame you. And honestly, I know you said it's silly that the White Sox, for not picking up the option of Tim Anderson. And thinking about it more, I agree with you. They're going to pick up the option, but I don't know if he's going to make the team. I think they might trade him. And I'm looking at free agency. There is not a lot of depth at shortstop or second base. And somebody trading Tim Anderson on a 1-year, $14 million deal to play either second or short might be your best option if you desperately need one of those positions. And $14 million is not cheap, but that's not expensive either for a veteran. I think the White Sox deal him.
It's possible, sure.
I don't know what they do with Hendricks. Do they cut him?
That would be that'd feel like such a dick move after all he's been through, but I don't know if they're actually going to have him pitch with the White Sox again. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a whole year to recover for Tommy John.
I don't know if Clevenger returns. So really your roster is Moncada, Benintendi, as far as salary. Moncada, Benintendi, whatever you do with Hendricks, Eloy, Luis Robert, Aaron Bummer, and that's as far as your roster guys. That's it. Everybody else is pre-arb or in arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you got Lurie Garcia's $5.5 million that you're still paying.
Can't forget about that.
Oh, and $1 million to Jose Abreu.
Does Jerry blow his nose on the check they send to him?
So I just, your salary is low, and I think they're going to just pad it with bums and aging veterans and rookies and say they're retooling and just trot out a dog shit team next year.
Could be.
I don't know what else they would do when they basically said their entire team was for sale except for one player. And I don't know. I don't think they're going to go out there and try to field a winning team next year.
Well, I think they'll say they're trying to, but will it actually be a winning team is the question.
Yeah, like I said, I feel so bad for White Sox fans because that team is just, they're all but spitting in your face.
Yeah, the friend I went to the game with is a big White Sox fan, and he's just so frustrated and done with the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't blame
him.
I
don't blame him at all. I wouldn't blame anybody for not wanting to participate in the fandom at the moment. If people say, what, screw this, until they get serious, I'm turning away for a while. I wouldn't blame him.
The Orioles were bad for a long time, but a few years ago they were still bad, but you could sense they were on the right path. Like I feel like they're on the right path, and now you look at them and they've got a winning ball club on the field, and they've got a good farm system, and you're like, all right, now I'm feeling confident in what they do. The White Sox,
Unfortunately, their management and their ownership are still jackasses.
that's true. Yeah. The whole suspending their announcer.
Just the stupidest thing I've ever seen, truly.
Yeah. That was really dumb.
But the team itself, I mean, they got the best record in the American League right now. So
Yeah, they're playing great. I'm rooting for them in the World Series. Um, but the White Sox, they never seem to get it right. Even when they do a rebuild, it's the last rebuild, they had a lot of good talent and they just brought them all up, and then the farm system was bare. And when people didn't pan out, and I sort of remember, and I didn't want to be a Debbie Downer or seem like I was hating when the White Sox brought all these guys up, but you know, at a certain point, there's a lot of luck that goes into bringing major baseball players to the majors. You can work with them in the minors. You can, identify the talent and have them hit great and then move all the way up. But when you bring them up, there's a lot of luck. Sometimes guys can mash all the way through AAA, but the majors, they just never pan out. Other guys, injuries. Other guys are flashing the pans. Whatever it is guys don't always pan out. And there's a lot of luck involved. And the White Sox had some pretty shitty luck. And they also had cheap ownership and front office that lacked some foresight. And what you ended up with was a lot of those players didn't pan out. You didn't replenish the minor league system, and when you're trying to have a fire sale, you didn't replenish your farm system enough from that, and now you're looking at a long path to be good again.
yeah, I mean, the whole process has just been really, really screwed up when you're not optimizing your roster when you were in a window and when you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot with bad fundamentals, which reflects on the coaching staff. And you have a manager in Pedro Grafal who some of the stuff that just comes out of his mouth just makes you slap yourself in the face.
Right?
I mean, talking about not wanting to sacrifice wins for development in a lost season. I mean, that's beyond ridiculous. The fact that they're still trotting out Elvis Andrus and Yasmani Grandal out there instead of seeing what any possible younger depth has makes no sense.
Yeah, Yasmani Grandal does not want to be on this team, and you're just trotting him out there. And I don't have anything bad to say about Elvis Andrus other than his best days of playing are far behind him.
He's old, he's washed. There's just
I don't have
point.
I don't have any personal bad thing to say.
No.
Grandal is, there's a lot of possible locker room issues there, but his, I just don't understand. I agree with you. I don't understand we have two managers in this town that can't seem to get out of their own way.
Yeah. Common problem with coaches in this town, honestly.
And, it's weird. In baseball, we've sort of transitioned away from these great managers to guys that are rah-rah guys that take their marching orders from the front office.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of these managers are just controlled by the front office now.
And that's what, we'll use this to transition over to the Cubs, but that's really what David Ross is.
Mm-hmm.
He is a puppet of the front office, and that's exactly what they wanted. And, gives David Ross, a job. But the way he constructs that roster or the roster sometimes in the lineup card, you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like today, you have a day off tomorrow. Why are you not playing Candelaria and Tachman? Why?
Yeah, though, unfortunately, the real story of the game was Tyone did not have it. But
Oh yeah,
you could,
yeah, we'll get to that. But I mean,
it makes you ask questions on how it's being managed. I agree. I agree.
and I will say this is I won't make any excuses for Tyone, but it's a lot easier to pitch with a lead than pitching from behind, especially when you're facing a club that can just put 11 runs up on you. Is if you had a more potent offense there, is do you give them the confidence to go out there and
Well,
not worry about
he was
the mistakes?
spotted a 2-0 lead in the first inning.
That's fair.
His location was off the whole time.
Yeah, I I was really hoping for him to have figured things out because we're still short Stroman,
He's coming back Wednesday, supposedly.
supposedly, um, and Smiley is on fumes.
He's in the bullpen now, so
Um, at least Assad is pitching great.
that performance Friday night, what a big balls performance that was. 7 innings, 1 run.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a masterpiece from him. Like,
yeah.
good on him. He held his own against the Braves and then pitched really well in Toronto to get the win.
And Toronto is not an easy place to play. Like that's a really good ball club, um, and they won that series. It just
Yeah, that
sucks.
was a tough assignment.
It just sucks that they lost to the Mets.
Yeah, well, I'm going to echo what a lot of other people said. That, from the beginning, had the very makings of a trap series.
Yeah, I was a little nervous. I mean, I wanted to be like the Mets are bad. They got to take those, and I'm just the whole time going in my head going, "Did you jinx this? Because they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose to the Mets."
The finale was really frustrating when you had 2 on, nobody out, down 1 in the ninth, and you couldn't get the tying run home. That was very frustrating.
Yeah, that was just a frustrating series in general.
Yeah.
And
You were lucky to come away with the 1, though.
oh yeah, I mean Pete Alonso was acting like Babe Ruth playing them, and it just that was a bad series. And I it's funny because they played so well going into it, and I was like, don't shit the bed against the Mets, especially when you got the Blue Jays coming up, and you shit the bed completely with the Mets, and you come out and you actually play a pretty good series with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, you do. You win the series. You take that every time, and real gutsy win on Saturday too. You're down 1-0. You take a 4-run lead, and then the Jays come back. They scrap their way back, and it's tied late. And you're thinking, a few months ago, this Cubs team probably crumbles, but no, they hold their own from the bullpen. They pitch well. You bring in your big guns. You bring in your Leiter, your Merriweather, and then Christopher Morel clutch double gives you the lead. And then Alzolay, boom, 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 easy save, game over. I mean, that was a nice gutsy win on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and a few months ago, the Cubs don't win this.
No, no.
They're starting to find a little scrap in them. And this team fought to keep their guys. They did. Now it's up to them to make sure that they're winning baseball games.
And it's both relaxing and kind of nervous, kind of going back to the point about the Mets series. Look at your schedule now.
Yeah.
Over the next week or so.
White Sox, 2 against the White Sox, 3 against Kansas City, 3 against Detroit, 4 against Pittsburgh.
You have to take advantage of that. There's no excuses for not winning a majority of those.
Yeah, if you don't go at least 8-4, then shame on you.
Right.
And 8-4 is the bare bones. Shame on you. You need to take both of these against the White Sox because the White Sox did not do you any favors against the Brewers.
No, I was really hoping the Sox would win just one. Just one.
Yep, they couldn't pull anything out.
No.
They had opportunities. They just couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, the first two games, you really should have won that Friday night game, but they didn't. And listen, I I know the Sox always bring it when they play the Cubs. I the Cubs are what, like one for their last seven against the Sox at Wrigley Field, something like that.
Something like that.
And we know how Eloy Jimenez hits against the Cubs. And the Sox at this point have nothing to lose. The Cubs have everything to lose. But you got to stay focused here. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And, this goes beyond just the Sox. And this has nothing to do with the crosstown stuff. Nobody cares about the crosstown stuff. This is just about a Cub team that, if they want to stay in the race, needs to beat teams they need to beat. And you have to win a majority of these games on the stretch. And again, I don't want to just pick on the White Sox because, you have the Kansas City Royals at home after that. You want to talk about a series you really need to fricking win?
Absolutely.
The Royals at home.
Yeah. It's I'm not shitting on the White Sox. I'm just saying is the White Sox are struggling right now. You've got to take advantage.
It was the exact other way around 2 years ago when the White Sox were fighting they weren't really fighting for a division. They ran away with it, but still they were a playoff bound team that needed to keep things going, and they faced a Cub team that had just torn everything apart, that everything was gone. And it was the shoe was on the other foot then. The White Sox, it was must-win games against the torn-down Cub team. Now it's the other way around. That's just the way it is. And I think the series that does worry me, well, there's two series. It's the Royals at home. That seems like the most slam dunk series of the year outside the Oakland series, where you almost feel like there's going to be some major frustration in there, right? Like, you know what I mean? You better do what you did to the Royals, what you did to Oakland.
I mean, that team is 38-81. You better wreck them.
Yeah. And the other thing, Detroit can be pretty scrappy. They're not good, but they are scrappy.
They are 53-65. You better kick their ass too.
But they are they are a little scrappy.
The White Sox are 47-72. You better kick their ass. Pittsburgh is 53-64. You better kick their ass.
Yeah. You have to win these.
You have to. Like, you just can't mess around. You got to win these games.
There's just that feeling of because we've seen how many times over the years any Chicago sports team playing down to their competition in these situations. You can't listen. You're not going to win every single game over the next 2 weeks. So let's say you go 4-1 against the White Sox and the Royals. Okay. And then is it 4 against the Pirates or 3 against the Pirates?
It's 4 against the Pirates, 3 against the Detroit.
Right. So if you went, let's say, if you won 5 of those 7, fine. You're not going to win every single game, but you got to win a majority of them. Would you say 8-4 was your low benchmark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. They go 8-4. That's reasonable.
Yeah, in that stretch, yeah, I think that's the low benchmark there, and that puts you, comfortably in the lead for second place of the division and for that last wild card spot.
Right. Yeah, so it's like we should be looking at this as a complete positive, but we've seen this before. We've seen in baseball all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, the Cubs it's on a platter. The Cubs' next 12 games are against bad teams, and the Brewers are going 3 in Los Angeles, 3 in Texas, then 2 in Minnesota or against Minnesota, 3 against San Diego. So in that same stretch, the Brewers are facing really good teams. So in theory, the Cubs, this is a really good opportunity for them to not just, you know, hang in there, but to take the lead in the division, especially then going against each other. So, I mean, at the end of August, the Cubs, everything is lined up for them to be in first place. It's up to them to do it.
Sure.
You're 3.5 behind right now. You should be able to, with their tough schedule, your easy schedule, make up those 3.5 games or come real close. And then you play them for 3 games. So then it comes down to who wins that series, who's leading the division.
Right.
So it's up to them. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat this and be like, oh, I guarantee this because look at the team is
You can never guarantee it.
is this Cubs team, if they want to win, they got to put the big boy pants on. And right now is big boy pants time.
Yep. And listen, for the most part this year, you've handled teams you should have outside the Mets series and that 3-4 loss against the Washington Nationals. Outside those two, you've pretty much handled your business. You've won every game against the Pirates so far. You beat the living daylights out of the Oakland Athletics. You've been able to handle those games so far. So you need to do it continually now, especially now. The bad teams have sold off. You've added.
Yep. So I know the starting rotation is taking a hit here, but the bats better come alive and take care of business.
I mean, the bats have been doing most of the work. The bats in the bullpen. It's the starting rotation that worries me.
What are our probables here? Cubs. I think Hendricks is pitching
Tuesday
against the White Sox, and let's see, Cubs probables. Hendricks is pitching against the White Sox. TBD.
Probably Stroman if he's ready to go.
Stroman, he's ready to go. Assad if he's not. Yeah, they only list in the probables. They only have Kyle Hendricks. Everybody else is TBD.
Well, and if Marcus Stroman comes back, do you go to a 6-man?
I would.
I would too.
I think it makes sense. You've got some guys struggling, and give everybody a little bit of an extra day break.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, is one concern I really do have. As good as Justin Steele is, this is the biggest workload he's ever had. And I feel like if you look at his last few games, you see him going through the start and I sense fatigue with him.
That's a realistic possibility. I mean, that happens to young players in all sports. They hit a wall at a certain point, and you've got to learn to push through it.
And I'm not saying this isn't to say he's been bad. I think over his last few starts, he's been overall okay. Not
it's
not
just
bad, not great, okay.
Because the minor league season is shorter than the majors, and it's not as pronounced in the majors in baseball, but the NFL is a big one because the college football, you're playing like 10, 11 games, and then you go to the NFL and you're playing 17 plus 3 preseason games. That's a huge difference.
And deeper into bad weather too.
Yeah, your college football, you're ending in in November. And
all those bowl games are usually in,
yeah, they're all either in domes or in warm weather cities. So
exactly.
you're not playing in the bad weather. So you're not playing in December and January and February. And so you're playing later, you're playing worse weather. It's you see rookies just run into that wall. And in majors baseball, you're seeing that too. It's just even though it's not as pronounced, the minor league schedule versus the bigs.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, the Cubs have a big opportunity here, and I'm really hoping that they're able to tighten the screws on this division and really put the pressure on Milwaukee. My dream would be that the Cubs come out and just start firing, and the Brewers watch them inching up and start feeling the pressure and playing worse because of it. Fingers crossed. Clink, 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 clink.
Yep. Right there with you.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPet2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.